because
Hello. We are back after having some lunch.
some Thanksgiving style
Yep.
lunch.
We are here with a special guest.
Hello. I'm just kidding. It's my first time, so.
You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Alessandra, and I work at the George Huckins Treatment Center.
Awesome. So today we're just kind of sitting down with everybody and asking you to share if you have any wisdom or anything you want to share with everybody. Or what was Barry saying yesterday? He said, is there anything that you would wish to say for, because we know that this is going to be around probably longer than we are, that you want for anybody in your family to be able to hear maybe further down the line?
I guess to be more of themselves and to love themselves and to know where they come from, because our ancestor did work or fought for us to be here. And I think that's the main thing that we want to keep us, our kids throughout generations, our kids go on so they can still have the heritage that they have, that we have, that we're learning, because I know some of us are dying out, even like languages. So I think that's the main thing that I would like to see keep going.
Me?
Go ahead.
What do I want to pass on? I think that sense of self-worth and self-respect, I think, is huge, especially in our young population, because we do see a lot of negativity that can come out of lacking that self-respect and self-worth. And so I want, my kids to know, they're valued, stay true to themselves, so that way they can, be the best that they can be. And then even if they do kind of fall off that path, they can still, come back and build, a better foundation. And that's my little spiel.
Yeah, I think it's when I try to think about that question in general, I always think of how best, because I never want any of the people that I influence to have to go through some of the things that I've had to go through, especially my kids. And so, but working in the environment that we work in, we have influence over way more than just our own family members. And so almost everyone we come in contact with is looking for somebody to be able to help guide them. And most of the times we point them towards Creator and helping to develop that relationship. But I think we stop sometimes from recognizing that even ourselves, we have a big influence over the people that we work with, and neglecting to understand that we do have that influence, and that things that we teach or things that we say ends up being passed on and being repeated and things like that. Sometimes it's I know that I failed many times on my part when it comes to that. Because we do joke around a lot, we do mess around a lot, but there's times where it's just like I was thinking about it the other day when it comes to things like we're going through this election time, and then or tribal council or something like that. There's just people that are around us all the time. They've never thought that they could take part in things like that. And I'm like, man, it's like your voice matters even more now than it did before. I said, because now you have a clean mind.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard for them to understand, and to break away from the stigma of oh yeah, well, people do want to listen to me now, or people do think that I have a right to be heard. And I think to break free from that, and for them to understand that just that they do have an influence, especially people like Barry, just people hearing his voice and how far he's come. and for them to be able to, and David and Cassandra and all the other ones that we work with, they have an influence over the ones that we work with all the time, and whatever they do ends up being something that people are going to try to portray, or things that they're going to try to do, and they have to be able to recognize that. And especially if like comes to voting or things that they're thinking about or whatever, I was like, tribal council is a big deal. This is how you're moving forward, and whatever
Yeah.
you do now is going to affect your kids and your grandkids. And I think that's it needs to be a bigger part, and for people to understand about their aura of influence.
Oh
So
yeah. I
Yeah.
understand with the voting thing, and I think that really starts within yourself to vote of what to like what I said. Like now what we're going through is like really, either go with Kamala or Trump,
yep.
and that's kind of scary. I mean, if the other one wins, just think for me, I always say, do you want to go back to where we're not nothing and we're back into the concentration camps? Is that where we're going to go? If, you know,
hmm
of the things that you have to think about. And I tell my kids, you got to go vote. You got to go vote. I mean, that's your voice to give, to, I guess, to have a voice and to know of change. I know that we need changes sometimes in like I always say, I was just speaking with that with my husband the other day with the Constitution.
hmm
I said, why is it not change? It's just that the people that are in there, they don't change it because they've been there like what? They're all in their 70s, 80s now,
You're right.
which I think new generation of new things because things change. So I think that's what it needs, and not just in that politics, even Native American politics, every tribe. My tribe, my people, the older, they don't allow women to run. So they always say, if women runs, things goes to hell. Like goes
hmm
sideways. But it's kind of weird because for me, I understand is where women's is everything. They give birth, they know how to make a family, make a home. For everybody. And how is it? I think it's just generations. Just I mean, from our ancestors. I'm the man. I guess I'm not I'm the part where that doesn't apply to me. I'm my own person. I'm like I'm so stubborn. It's my way or the highway. That's sometimes I do kind of take that kind of little. Not I say little, a lot.
right.
So I think that's what just the person I am of how I was raised to say I am somebody. So I don't follow the rules sometimes. Like doing when we're doing because we have when my daughter did her puberty thing, the walking beauty thing, and we had to make those cakes. Oh my gosh, it was like with the sticks and making. I said there is a better way to make this like 21st century with like the mixer and stuff.
hmm
And my grandma's kind of and my aunt were mad at me because I was just joking because everybody was just tired because you make so much. This is how big that cake was.
hmm
And the mix, and it was just like, oh my gosh. I'm glad I only have one daughter. That's the only thing that I had to do. But yeah, I understand what, the voting really does start if you really want change.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the things that we want to pass on and things like that. I always think about that, and I talk about that with my kids all the time. Is the friends you choose and things that you decide to be included in, whether it's a club or a sport or something. I was like, you're gonna be an influence to somebody. I was like, you could be an influence to your younger sister. You could, just like I tell my son all the time, I was like, everything you do, I was like, your sisters are following, looking at you, and no
Hmm.
matter what it is you're doing. I was like, because you're you've made it further than they have, and you have way more experience than they do. And so whenever it comes to thinking about things that are passed on, I think even the older teenagers and things like that don't even have those thoughts in their head about their areas of influence, especially when it comes to the younger kids. And I know I experience that with my daughters all the time. So um, I know yours are still little.
Oh, still bad. Still bad. Yeah, the older one definitely influences the younger, and it'll be instantaneous. It'll be looking like they're just copying each other. But yeah, I mean, you can easily see it real time how influence can spread quick. Like how one thing can lead to 50 people doing the same thing, and that's just a kid. And you see that in daycares and all that stuff, dances. Because if one kid starts running around, the rest of the kids start trying to run
Right.
around. And so you could easily see that. But as they get older, you just see it delayed, and it'll be broader things that they're influenced by, and their decisions are all just going to be affected, but it'll just be a little bit slower, and you won't notice it until until it happens.
I think we can apply it to how much like our meetings have grown and our talking circles and things have grown. I was like, because as we've gotten people that have gone through treatment and they've come back and they want to be involved, like David or Cassandra or Barry or whoever it may be, I was like, their area of influence has brought more and more people there because they see the success.
Yes.
And so from that success, other people want to find that same thing that they're doing. And we found people like Catechus that gets to come and do the things that she's doing now and be more involved and want to speak, which is crazy to me because I'd never think that she would be one that'd want to come out and start talking the way that she has. And it's it's kind of enlightening because to see how much they've grown and like people like Dell. I know we make fun of him all the time because he's Dell, um, but to think of like how far they've come and to see the steps that they're taking and to see like how much influence they're having over other people in this area that we're trying to not just invite people to but help them to grow and to learn. And these are, I think we've just got some really good examples that have come through our little program, and to see how far they've come and to see their sphere of influence and to know that our talking circles are as big as they are now, and to know that we're having meetings every day of the week, which I remember when we thought about that in the very beginning, we were like, how in the world are we going to accomplish this? I was like, because in the very beginning, it was just me, Darian, and Mingo.
Mhm.
I was thinking we had a 8-month pregnant lady that started with us. And so it was like, oh my goodness, how in the world are we going to be able to do all this stuff? Because these are all plans, and to see how far it's come now, it's like it's kind of crazy that our little group is doing everything that we're doing now, and that we do have meetings and we have people that are facilitating these meetings. And those are things that we were worried about. And now that we've gotten people through the program and George Hawkins has helped with that and things like that, it's just like, oh man, I was like, it's kind of almost like a weight off of our shoulders. But at the same time, I'm like, well, what's the next step now?
Yeah.
What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And here we are doing a podcast in the middle of the elders conference.
Yep, just
And
taking up space in the elders conference.
hoping that we can get somebody to come in here and come and talk with us. And luckily you decided to stop and talk with us.
Yeah, I mean, Nat's just been sitting there.
Yeah.
She could have been on here the whole time, but just staring.
She was just talking about how her hair shows how her age and how beautiful it is and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, she
See,
said she'll come and explain that.
She's pretending she's sending emails.
Yeah, she's doing a Mingo thing. Yeah, Mingo, anytime you ask him to do something or get ready for the podcast, he'll start pretending to work
Yeah.
and then make you wait about 20 minutes. So, she probably learned from him, from the best.
Mm-hmm. Rugged Auntie Corinne is watching. Rosa's watching. It's good to you're joining in, Miss Hall, Rosa Hall. Isaac's watching, of course. I think he's like one of our most loyal people that watch.
Doesn't he work?
I know. He's just a safety guy. Thinks,
Yeah, it's just like, everything's safe. I'll just
it's
watch
safe.
it live.
It's safe. I could just watch the live.
Yeah. But so he really is sponsoring this contest?
Yeah, he said that he's doing
Relay race.
a relay race for 4 people at the dance tomorrow. 4 people, 1 horse, like a stick horse.
Oh, I was going to say,
So
how do
he's
you do
doing like
that?
yeah, so he's doing like an Indian relay tomorrow at the dance to coincide with the hat and boot dance because he was like, oh, we'll keep it all cowboy themed. So he's sponsoring he's like mini Indian relay race.
Yeah.
And so he said anybody can come out, 4 people in a group, 1 horse, and then he said the prize is $100 for whoever wins. So
I guess I
Yeah.
better start exercising.
Getting your
start-
team ready. Yeah,
start
stretching.
stretching now.
Stretching and make
Yeah.
sure.
And I don't know if he's gonna have him go around the drum or
Yeah.
what. So we'll see.
Let's make him go around the walking trail all the
Yeah.
way.
Hey, that'd be a long race. Like, we'll see you later, Isaac. I
Yeah.
guess I'll MC for another hour.
Mhm.
So, good afternoon, Kat. Thanks for joining in. But yeah, those are just things that we want to talk and ask everybody that gets to come on. Hopefully, somebody else wants to come and join us at some point. You might have
I
to
think
jump
they're all
up and
I know
grab somebody.
Barry was supposed to be recruiting, and then
Yeah.
he
disappeared.
just wandered off.
So,
Yeah. Hopefully, everybody that's watching, that's kind of local to Western Oklahoma, you guys, we can see you tomorrow at our benefit dance at the ERC. So it's Saturday, November 2nd. We will have the hat and boot contest, and now this stick stick horse relay race.
Yep.
Who knows? Maybe just make people do lassos or something. I don't know.
I don't
Just
know.
add on to it. Might as well. But yeah, we'll have a bunch of raffles. Two contests now, and then a bunch of community support revolving around recovery and culture, and the drum. And so we hope to see as many people there. So we've been spreading the word here at the elders conference. Some of them already knew about it. Others, they're excited about it. And so we heard maybe the Comanche Nation recovery team will come out. So that'll be cool to, boost that relationship with them. Because we try to work with, any tribe. So whenever we went down to Anadarko, we saw a lot of tribes that already knew who we were, and we didn't meet them yet. And so it was pretty cool seeing, what social media has done for us and how much we've grown just from, a little iPhone doing a little meditation, and then
Right.
now we have an actual production. We're still, using street knowledge and just winging it, but it's grown a lot since January 1st, I think, is when we started. And so we're not even a year in.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about tour. I mean, it's like a wildfire. Nobody knew what it was, and I didn't know what it was. I was,
Yeah.
when they said, "Okay, we're going to tour," I was all like, "Okay, what does tour stand for?"
Yeah.
Until being where I am, where I'm working at, it really opened a lot of people that that don't have. Like I said, I was talking about earlier, they don't really do the Bible Christian thing.
Mhm.
But if the spiritual side comes in, I think they really attach to that and say, hey, I can do this if I have, Mother Earth or whatever spiritual things that they, on the traditional side. I think that's good. I really like that. And I wish my tribe would see that because there's a lot of meth addicts on the reservation, and our reservation's big. And I should say I'm Navajo, so the reservation is really, I mean, people don't really get out, so it's kind of hard to say, hey, get an education or something, even though there's stuff like that, but there's just no one to say they want the help but don't know how. Like,
Yeah,
some
they
of
need
them
the
say,
guidance. Yeah.
to say, I don't know how to, or I'm scared because of that little change. I say, and they get scared. Step like stepping in cold water and say, okay, and I don't want to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the conversations that we're picking up from just even yesterday at the parade or whatever. It was like, or when was it? Wednesday
Yeah.
at the parade. I was just walking, and then people were like, "Oh, hey, I know who you are," and
Yeah.
I would have no idea who they
Yeah.
are. And we had like 15 different tribes that were down there doing
Yeah.
different parade floats and stuff, and like all of these people were lined up on the side, and they're like, "Oh, we know who you are. Can we have a sticker, or can we have this?" And it's like they want to like conduct a conversation. I'm walking with the flow, and I can't
Yeah, trying to keep up with this truck.
I can't stay here and talk. I was like, if I could come back and know exactly who you were, I'd come back. I said, but there were so many people that were doing that.
Mhm.
They're like, we need more, and I was like, well, I guess we can come down here with our own parade. Just
Yeah,
drive the truck
just
around
one
in a
truck.
circle. Yep. But yeah, it's crazy sometimes to see people reach out and know that they're all the way in Canada or they're in all these
Yeah.
other states and
Mhm.
things like that. And then we have people that want to come and sometimes they can't come down. Like I know our brother Kerry that's over in
Shawnee.
Shawnee always wants to come and be involved in our stuff, and he can't make it sometimes because he's all the way over there. And like we're having our dance in Clinton tomorrow, and he says he wants to make it, but sometimes it's hard to make that happen. So
It's like
we
a 3-hour
understand
drive.
that guy. He's always trying to battle us on the dance floor. So um, he's Barry's main competition.
Yeah.
So
I have a question though.
okay.
We have our clients that graduate.
Mhm.
I wanted to know, some of them don't have cars or have family to say, okay, yeah, I'll take you to your AA, or to keep that thing going. So they stop. Do you ever thought about having a bus like come to Clinton, just like on one of the days? I know you have one here on Tuesdays,
Mhm.
but like, like the Thursday tour, have a bus come and go pick them up.
Uh,
And then just the ones that have been trying to do the
Mhm.
recovery thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that's the big issue with almost any program is transportation, because we only have one car for all of tour, and we're
Yeah.
we're barely even uh, making it by with that. And so we do see a lot, actually, like in El Reno, we see a lot that are talking circle members that are helping those people come out, and so hopefully we can grow Clinton's group that much to where the next one. So we just got told we can do a group in Weatherford on Thursdays, and so if that group kind of gets going, we want to be able to bring more people from Clinton to Weatherford, and then on Tuesdays from Weatherford to Clinton. But it'll all be around the attendees that do have vehicles, because that's where we've seen the biggest impact, because we've seen people bring like go pick up 5 to 10
Mhm.
people just for
Yeah.
one meeting, and it's huge. But yeah, that is definitely like one of the biggest limiting things for us is transportation. I mean, we've been trying to get a vehicle for 2-3 years so that way we can have 2 cars, and so it's just an ongoing thing. And so we'll borrow other programs' vehicles if we can, but most of the time, they're out in the communities too. But that's kind of what our solution is at the moment, even though it's not the greatest, but it does build that strength in that one circle, that it's the same people that are in the circle that are helping them get there, and so it strengthens that relationship. um, but yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
Yeah, those are things that, like you said, we're always trying to work on. And, you know, people that work within our area they always find ways sometimes that we don't see that we can improve. And so it's always good to hear those kind of things. And because we think that we see everything, but we don't see everything. And that's the way it is with every program. So, um, but yeah, it's exciting because we know that we have the ones in Clinton. We're going to have the new one in Weatherford. We have the ones in Watonga. We have ours in El Reno all the time. I think if Barry could have it his way, he would have one every day of the week
Mhm.
in El Reno. But of course, like we know, everybody that's in Clinton and Weatherford would want to come over here. It's just a hard thing for us to try to accomplish. And because we're trying to be we're just a little 4-man group. And so like we have to be in different places, and sometimes Mingo does his yoga and Zuba things during the evening time. Barry's helping do the meetings.
Mhm.
Me and Darian have to be somewhere else at some time, and it's just like, oh, well, I wish we could go and pick up everybody over here and bring them over here, and sometimes it's just not feasible. But hopefully, working with the people that are in the groups and then the other programs, we can try to find some kind of solution for that. So it's good to hear the suggestions. So
Mhm.
let's see here.
Is
Oh,
Ned done with their
Ali's on
timesheet?
here. He says, "Go, Alessandra." So you have people watching, Amex watching,
Mr. Brown Sugar.
yeah, Virginia's watching,
All right, we have
Gina.
another special guest back by
I'm
popular
scared. I'm
demand.
getting off of here.
I know
No,
she's
stay
gonna
here.
rant, so we're
You
gonna
have to
leave.
stay here. Y'all
No.
wanted me here.
This
Well,
is
she's hosting now. We're
Yeah.
gonna take
No,
off.
no, 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 no.
this is Womanberry Botone.
Oh my goodness.
First of all, this is an amazing conference. First of all, let me go ahead and remind everybody that I am Seminole and Creek, and I'm enrolled in Seminole, and we do have a very large um, number of elders in our area, and we do what we can for our Older American program, which is what it's referred to as our OAP. Um, but this is amazing. Like I was just sitting over there, and as I was walking through, I was just listening to the conversations and the camaraderie and the laughter. And, a lot of times we think of our elders as they're just sitting in the house, and just dilapidating, like you just sitting there and nobody, there's such a wealth of knowledge in this building right now. It's like a library of all of the wisdom and the knowledge and the traditional, teachings and everything. And they're just out there chumming it up and rubbing elbows. And I was thinking, as a child, my grandma, because I was raised with my grandma and grandpa as they were elders in the community, which when I was little, they were probably my age now. but but I remember them taking me to all of these different things that they would go to. They would go eat at the, the elder nutrition, or they would just go hang out. And we had archery tournaments and, things like that. But I remember just sitting listening to stories, because back then children were seen, not heard. And that was a teaching that it was just one of the teachings that we had. And because my grandpa used to say, you might hear something that you might need later, so zip it up. There's a time and a place for everything, right? And I tend to yap quite a bit, so I used to get in trouble quite a bit. Bloop. And but one of those teachings was sit and listen. You never know what you're going to hear, right? So once you start to listen, like you would hear all the things too, because that being said, is we would go to church and I would sit there with like a lot of the women, the elder women and everything. And listen, they used to gossip. And that's where you got the good juicy gossip, was at the churchyard with those old folks. They'd be talking smack about anyway, but in the language too. So I picked up a lot of that language, like how to make fun of people and, in kind of a traditional conversation way. But anyway, that being said, there were a lot of teachings that you picked up just listening, just sitting there watching, and even just like I said, them laughing and talking. And sometimes these elders, this is all they have to come to, because maybe their families have moved off and moved away, because we know small town politics. We know people don't just live in small towns because they want to. Sometimes it's homestead. Sometimes it's tradition. Sometimes it's culture that leaves them there. Sometimes it's family lineage and things. And, in this world catches us up, or we get caught up in this world, and we are chasing what we have to live in two worlds, right? So we chase the money, and not so much that we're money hungry, but you got to chase the job. You got to go where you can take care of your family. And so anyway, but that being said, is some of these elders just need this. They just need someone to sit and tell a story to. And sometimes we need to sit back and let them tell their stories. And it might be the same story we heard 50,000 times, right? Like I was when we were at the dance last weekend, I remember like Barry was trying to talk to me, and I was like, hang on, I'm trying to listen to this story, right? And he was like, they tell that story all the time. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about, and it was the snake story,
Yeah, from Deswood.
So yeah.
That was a
He
good
was
one.
like, oh, we've heard this all the, we heard, and I was like, I've never heard it. So he was like, I'll tell you later. It is.
Oh,
So
It's not
anyway,
the
Tell it
same
wrong.
coming from Barry.
Yeah,
as it
he's
is
gonna
from
tell
us.
it
so
wrong.
anyway, but I mean, but after he did tell the story, I was like, oh, it's very similar to a story that we have. And in culture sharing is kind of a big thing for me. I work for Southern Plains Tribal Health Board, and I am kind of a cultural attaché for the Tribal Epidemiology Center and a lot of the things that we do when I go out into these communities, because I represent all the communities at Southern Plains Tribal Health Board. And so one of the things I like to do is culture share. And culture share, a lot of that is youth and elder. It's trying to bring the youth and elder together to bridge that gap. And where are we missing those components these days? Because this world catches us up. We're trying to get into the modern times, like apps and, and like Twitch streams and, things like that. So we can reach those elders that are way out that can't maybe just make it to, where are we, Clinton?
Yeah.
This is
Oklahoma.
unfamiliar territory
Yeah.
to me. So, like, there's no trees out here. How come you guys don't have trees? It's because it's Western Oklahoma,
It's all
and you
windmills.
guys are
That's all it is.
Turbines.
Wind turbines. Yeah.
turbines. But anyway, so I mean, but that, even just in and of that, there's a story behind that, and why, El Reno was set where it's set, and why this happened. There's history behind all of this.
Mhm.
And all it is for me, whenever I go to a community, is it's a wealth of knowledge that I did not know, and it allows me to open my mind, and it also allows me to have spiritual and emotional growth, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. We talk about this in the talking circle all the time. Sometimes we need to feed our inner child, and my inner child loves that knowledge. We still have that child. We talk about this in the talking circle quite a bit, and I want to kind of preface this by saying, just really quickly, a lesson that I learned when in my recovery. I had a therapist that asked me one time, why are you so angry? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, what made you happy when you were growing up? What did you do when you were growing up? And I said, well, I don't know. I played in the mud and in the rain, and, and all the things that country kids do, right? You played in the mud, played with snakes. Hey, that's what we did. And,
Playing the mountain.
you chased, you ran with no shoes on everywhere. And anyway, so I told her, I said, well, I used to play in the mud and play in the rain and climb trees. Very simply, she said, and very succinctly, she said, when's the last time you've done that? And I said, I don't know. At this time, I'm like 15, and I'm grown, right? You can't tell me
Yeah.
nothing, because
An
I already
alpha.
been through some crap, by that time at 15. And I'd been through the dirt and the mud, and had a lot of trauma and abuse, and everything happened to me at that point. And so I was grown, and I had to be tough. But anyway, I was like, it's probably when I was a kid, and I was still a kid, right? So anyway, my self-care, which there was not a word for such things when I was growing up. So, but my homework, so to speak, um, was, well, before you come back for your next appointment, do one of those things. So as soon as I got home, I remember it was raining, and my grandma had picked me up. And normally, and she like ran in and covered something over her hair, because she had curlers in her hair. She had a microphone perm. I always tell her she looked like a microphone, because
Yeah.
she used to roll her hair up in curlers. Anyway, she was really trying to protect it and run in. And I just remember thinking, okay, this is something I used to love. And I walked very slow into the house, and I let the rain hit me, and I let it hit and it was cold, and I let it hit my face, and my shirt started getting wet, and I was a little uncomfortable, but it was nice. And so anyway, that being said, as I got to the the door, and grandma was like, don't come in with wet clothes on either. And I was like, dang it. Okay, well, I'm gonna go to my cousin's house, because my cousin lived across the road. So I ran across the road, and my cousin's like 7 years older than me, so she was always, hanging out and trying to be there for me and everything. She was like my big sister, because I didn't have such. And anyway, so I knocked on the door, and I was like, come play in the mud with me. She was like, what? I'm cleaning the house. Come play in the mud with me. But like immediately it had this effect on me, because I was feeding that kid that I didn't feed anymore, the kid that didn't get fed when she was a kid. So I was like immediately understanding, having to live through a childhood that I didn't get, and I still have to feed that kid. All of us should feed our kid. And so anyway, every now and then I'll tell my girls that, like, when we have a really especially trying day, like for example, my daughter texted me earlier and was like, I had a really bad day today, and I forgot you weren't home, and so anyway, but I was like, you need to feed your kid. She don't have any kids, but she knows exactly what that means. You need to feed your kid.
Mhm.
What does that mean? That means go outside and play in the mud. I don't care how old you are. It's still fun. Take your shoes off and walk in the grass. Grounding is a thing now that in the outside non-native world has become a trend, right? Grounding. We have grounding mats that you can order that give you that vibration, the vibes of when you're just walking outside in the dirt with no shoes on. We have certain tribes and certain communities that I've dealt with that they have times of the year, like the summer solstice and the winter solstice, they go on to the tippy top of a hill and let the sun recharge them. They're supposed to regenerate. And that's a genuine thing. Grounding, as far as like even burning sage, there's antibacterial properties to sage, and the smoke, it attaches itself to the microbes in the air and it drops them. So it clears the air. That's all grounding. And a long time ago, that was just what we did. And now it's kind of a trend, right? So I think about that, and then they, feeding my kid, I was raised with my grandparents. And so I would at several times and on occasions, and like with my aunt, I have an aunt that's 3 years older than I am. And my great grandma, which was her grandma, used to sew. She loved quilting. And we had one of those old Singer sewing machines where you had to pump the
Oh,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah. So we took turns at the bottom because she was old, right? And there was thread everywhere. But it was a time for her. I remember one of the lessons that we had, we would ask, how do you say this? How do you say that? We would ask, how do you say this? And what better time to ask your grandma how to say things to make fun of your family than while you're pumping that Singer sewing machine while she's sewing. But it just reminded me of that whole reciprocity of knowledge and gifting that wisdom to me, right? And that was one of the things I felt like was a gift and a curse at the same time, because I asked so many questions growing up and I talked a lot. But I also wanted to know, because I didn't get a chance to be around this particular grandma all the time. I just visited because this was my mother's side. I was raised on my dad's side, all the things, right? So trauma is trauma is trauma. But if I hadn't asked all those questions growing up, I wouldn't have known the answers to those. And so, but that's where I come back. I was just so like enlightened when I walked in thinking, man, this is such a good thing. And, just shout out to Cheyenne and Arapaho tribe just in general for, not just a particular program, but like even the programs showing up and I saw people getting up and going and helping open tables and stuff that, weren't necessarily on the staff, but elders were in there just laughing and chumming it up. And it was, it was food, and food is always medicine for our people in our communities and everything. So it's breaking bread and gift giving at the same time. One of the lessons, but I'm going to keep talking. So I'm just, y'all gonna have to
I'm just gonna
chop
mute
me
my
off,
mic
right?
so
Just
that way
mute
you
it
don't
and
hear
sit
me
here.
breathe.
But one of the lessons that I was thinking also when we were talking about food is, it was a really good spread of, a meal and everything. But one of the lessons we were just talking about very recently in a talking circle was bring your best. Anytime that you come to an elder, to ask for anything, an egg, can I borrow a cup of sugar? You're supposed to offer and bring your best, you're not even supposed to, like, I remember when we would go to my grandma and grandpa's house, we didn't even get to just dress some kind of way. We had to dress for the occasion. You brought your best. And so I still carry myself that way whenever I go out into the community. I try to not look like I just rolled out of bed. I try to be prepared for the day. And so, but that was just a symbol of honor and respect. And my grandparents loved seeing us dressed up for the occasion. Oh, they would love it. Oh, you have a nice little dress on and your face is clean. Hey, your ankles aren't dirty. Hey,
There's no mud on your
you
forehead.
got shoes on. Hey, your socks match. And, but anyway, but bring your best. And I remember my grandma used to say, just because we are poor doesn't mean you have to look poor. We have to carry ourselves with a certain pride when we walk in this world, because this is not our world and they're automatically judging you. So we have to be better than what even their best is. So bring your best no matter what. And in that lesson, I remember as a young person thinking that meant, gold and diamonds and, and the best fabrics and things like that, when you went anywhere, but it wasn't. If your best was beans and rice or bologna and bread, then that was your best. And you bring it to the table, and those people are supposed to accept it willingly, regardless, because that teaching was still there and kicked in. So, and it kind of stepped me away from learning all of the, you get caught up in this world and the society and the standards of this world and how you believe the hype. And, we refer to them as label hoes, but can I say that on here? Sorry.
You did.
I mean, it's too late. Can you bleep me out later?
I think we could do it right
Yeah, just do it later. Oh, Dang,
was
super
very-
loud. Now my
Yeah.
ears are bleeding.
I know.
Can you bleep that out?
Yeah.
Can you blot my blood? But anyway, because we did have family that we talked about. I talk about these things so much I never remember where I talked about it, but straying too far from the fire, losing your cultural knowledge and having your elders around you to remind you to be humble, to find that humility, to not think too much into it. It doesn't take that much. And, here and physical and all of that presence and everything is fine and dandy. I can walk the walk, or I can walk around and think that I know what I'm doing. But you've got to walk the walk and walk the talk.
Mhm.
Just because your outside looks great and your appearance seems nice, if your heart is ugly, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just clothes. It's just, I remember there was somebody that would always bring like just extravagant food to these meals, and but needed praise for it, needed validation for it. Oh, I brought, and would tell everybody, oh, I brought all of that. I brought all of that. That's not good teachings.
Mhm.
That's digging for, compliment and praise. And that's not what you do it for. It's the wrong reasons to do those things. But anyway, every time I'm saying something, I'm coming back to this big giant gathering of just this wealth of knowledge that is in this room that I don't know that people even understand, or maybe need a reminder that there is such a wealth of knowledge just wandering around out here talking and visiting, and I don't know. It's just very humbling, I think, to me, because I wish that, because I'm always thinking, oh, how could we do this for my tribe, right? We're always trying to cop somebody's style. Hey, no, we're always trying to steal ideas. No, I mean model. We're trying to steal the model. Hey, but the branding. No, you're fine, because if you don't stop me, I'll just keep talking.
I was gonna say I understand what you mean by the elders. I worked with elders for like over 25 years being a caregiver, and all of my cooking I learned from the elders. Different Mexican, Chinese, just cooking. That's what I learned. I would say, okay, how do you do this? All the food that I know how to make, I learned how to cook from elders
Yeah.
that I work with, and it's just to this day, I put in my own little spice to it.
Yeah. So like traditional meals, we were talking
Yeah.
earlier about grape dumplings, and I came for a speakers meeting for one of the talking circles here, and there was food requested, and we always bring food, especially we're supposed to provide a meal and break bread, right? And so I was like, well, I'll bring food, I'll cook something, and even if it's just gravy, at least you got to put that love into it, right? And so, but everything that I learned how to make, I learned from my elders, not necessarily my grandma or my grandpa, but it was somebody that gave me this. I mean, all the way down to, we make particular foods like blue dumplings, which is, and then we have a food called Puyafixa Wanaka, which is kind of like our version of a tamale. It's like a Seminole Creek Muskogee version of a tamale, and it's made with like white corn masa, and then you have to burn purple whole pea shells and pound them into a powder and mix it into it, and you make wood ash lye. I mean, it's all this homemade process, right? And it's something that not everybody makes anymore because nobody's really carrying on that tradition and custom. And so, had it not been for the wisdom of those elders and me asking all the questions and watching and learning, some of those things would not be passed on. And my girls now know how to make them. And we might be the only ones in our little, maybe in our county, that know how to make those traditional and ceremonial foods. I always tease and say that we should have made our Seminole, how Navajo Nation, well, they're princesses, they have to learn how to butcher a sheep.
Oh, don't look at me because I'd be yelling.
Listen,
My
but
grandma used to just tell us hold the leg. So, within our cousins, okay, my aunt or my dad will be butchering. And they're like, okay, who's going to hold the leg? We all teach, kind of be comical about it. We only learn how to hold the leg.
But I think that was because their princess has to know how to butcher and process a sheep, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
that's a cultural teaching right there. And so I was teasing kind of, but a few years back, because I used to sit on tribal council for the Seminole Nation, and I asked them, I was like, you know what we should make our princesses learn how to do? Because one of our traditional meals is squirrel. And because it's one of the diets of our people, it was in the area, it was indigenous, and there's all the things that go with it and the parts of it that we have to eat. And so, anyway, but I was like, we should teach them how to clean, like kill and clean a squirrel. You should know how to do that. Or if not, then how are we going to continue on these teachings and practices, right? And they were like, no, nobody has a stomach for that anymore. And
Speaking of that, um, we had a ceremonial for one of my cousins, and they butchered. You know, they make the intestines with the fat. I had to
oh, and
clean
you braid
that.
it and fry
Yeah,
it.
well, you
Mhm.
kind of have to put the fat in and kind of wrap it up.
Twist it up.
Yeah, with the intestine, you have to clean the intestine. You have to take out the stomach and all everything. My aunt, I think she did that on purpose. She said, "Here, this is what you're gonna do," and I looked at it as a, oh my god. And I always start joking. I said, this is, making like Butcher 101. I'm taking class. Who's the professor here? But I did learn, how to clean it. And then they'll be all like, make sure it cleans, it runs. I thought, is there a way I could just throw, pour Clorox in there, let it run so I could kill everything that,
Yeah, yeah.
But, it was
That was this mind telling you something was wrong with it, though, right? Though this
Yeah.
world told you, oh, something's wrong with this. It's dirty because, we hear that on TV all the time. But, our people grew up eating it that way. They didn't care
Yes,
about all that stuff.
But that's kind of the thing
Mhm.
I learned. And even like the one I miss when I was a teenager, I wish I learned how to make oven bread.
Mm.
My mom, my dad, every time, I mean, my grandma and my mom's sisters, they always made bread. It's like for the holidays,
Mhm.
someone's graduating. They always made bread. And did I? No, I just sat in the car or like, hurry up. You're being a teenager, you don't want to do all that stuff,
You could still learn.
But I didn't. And now I regret because the things that I want to taste, I can't. I have to go home and find someone that to make it,
And then teach them, have them teach you how to make it so
and
you
then
can
it
do it.
doesn't taste the same.
No, it never tastes the same. I always say that this is my grandma's
Yeah.
recipe, but it doesn't taste like when my grandma used to
The
make
first
it.
piece of fry bread is the one that you know, and then you relate it all to that one.
Listen,
Like,
I
it's
don't
not
even
nice.
serve my first piece of fry bread because that's my
Yeah.
tester bread. Because usually you're waiting to make sure your grease is hot enough because you don't want it to taste like straight grease. And, and we like our fry bread in our area. We like it a little bit on the blonde side, not like, like a light brown, not like real, real dark for certain things. Anyway, but yeah, I don't even let that go. I'll like, okay, I'll check this and throw it away. And I know you're not supposed to throw food away, but I do.
My
But-
kids,
Well-
they fight over the first. When I make the fry bread, they always say, "Okay, who wants to test it?" It's like they like dogs, they all come one and they
Mm.
want to. Well, give me a little piece. I want a piece. That's like. Then I have to make another one. They're like, "Well, I didn't get any," so then I have to make more.
My girls used to make their own when they were little. I would let them make one piece, and then that was theirs whenever it got done and everything. So there would always be one little tiny piece in there that was probably dirty and hard because they played with
Yep,
it way too
playing with it
much.
too
Yeah.
much.
But talking about the wisdom of elders and bringing back those traditional and cultural practices of foods and everything, when we would butcher hogs because we're a big hog butcher. We ate wild hogs too. Anything that was indigenous to the land, we butchered it. Deer, turkey. But anyway, it was kind of a rite of passage as a female whenever we would butcher a hog because the men would all get together. We'd have 5 families coming in and helping to process this pig because they were all going to walk away with part of it, with
Mhm.
meat and everything for the fall and the winter time. And so, but everybody put in work. So all the way down to the babies. But your rite of passage of growing up was you got to clean we call it fikchi, but it's like the intestines.
Mhm.
And then we clean it and everything, and then we end up making other things out of it. But yeah, so it's what are they even called in English? Just the intestines. They call them something else
This is
though.
me. I know how to say
Chitlins.
it
Yeah, I
now.
was gonna say chitlins.
Chitterlings is how they're marketed. But anyway, we would get those and they would put them all in a big like a big wash pan, and we'd all go out to the edge of the woods. And there was usually water, but there was usually a water hose. So that was more modern than just a bucket of water. But we'd have to dump them. And there was a certain way you dumped them.
Mhm.
And then we got a stick that was pointed at the end like a little fork, and you got them from one end and you flipped them inside out, and then you washed them really good, and then we would get them and braid them, and then we'd cut them up and fry them or boil them, then fry them. And then the large intestine we actually used. Okay, that being said, this is an old food that we ate. Kind of the equivalent of a blood sausage, that like
Oh,
red
yeah.
boudin. And
Yes.
so we would use the large intestine, cook rice and peppers and onions and all of the flavorings and everything. But my little bitty 4'8" grandma would go out with a big old bucket, and the pig would be hanging, and then pump the leg and would pull the blood. And so you would use that blood, let it coagulate, cook it, stuff it in with all the rice and everything, and stuff it into the large intestine, boil it. We tied it knots,
Mhm.
and then crisp it up on a fire, and then slice it up like sausage. And it was a delicacy. You ate it with your beans or whatever. And now, like, I think about it now because there's so many people that are so tenderhearted and, that they can't butcher anything, first of all. But like, this was for survival back then. It wasn't like, oh, well, I choose to do. No, you had to do this or you were going to starve. But like nowadays, it's frowned upon for you to eat certain things like that. Like we're so much more progressed now. We shouldn't have to eat that stuff. Well, no, I mean, that's how you lose your ways, right?
Yeah.
Because you get pulled into this world and they tell you that that's just gross. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it didn't help your people survive, right?
Yeah, me, I said, well, then go that way. I'm going to eat it when I'm going to eat.
Well, I'll eat all of it then. Do you guys
Yeah,
have,
extra for me?
yeah, is there something that like Cheyenne have that is,
Buffalo. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. You're asking the two
Yeah,
non-Cheyenne.
we're not-
yeah, oh yeah, right, right. We're the Cheyenne. How come we're running this show?
Yeah, I know. It's all nations. Yeah.
It's all
I know.
nations right here.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
so,
all nation.
well, what about for Comanches, for example, or Arapaho?
I think it's just
Or
buffalo
Pawnee.
stuff.
Like,
Yeah.
is there anything that it's like, oh, that's gross, like, or people think, oh, you still eat that? There's nothing like
Nothing
crazy.
that comes to mind.
Mine's all anything Cheyenne is gross.
Because you're Pawnee.
Yeah, that's because I'm Pawnee. So, but no, like
Yeah, I wish they all
didn't-
come
Yeah,
in.
I
know. Here they all come.
Yeah, all the viewers.
Yeah, I know. All of them are going
Bleep, bleep,
to come
bleep,
for me.
bleep.
Yeah.
Knock on the
happen.
door, see.
Yeah, but no, like I think I never got to. That's something that I'm learning over time now. Is because when I was young, I was, I'm half Native and I'm half Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Before I lost my parents, I never even knew I was Native. I was being raised as a little Hispanic boy, and when I lost my parents, that was whenever I finally found out that when we moved to Oklahoma. That's whenever I finally found out that about me actually being Native. And whenever I found that out, that I'm Pawnee and that I'm Oto as well. But we grew up knowing more about our Oto ways than I ever did, and I'm an enrolled member of Pawnee. But then we moved to El Reno, and the lady that we ended up growing up with was an Arapaho woman. So I learned more CNA stuff than I have anything else. And so that's why if you go around, everybody thinks that me and my brother are Cheyenne Arapaho.
What Mexican tribe are you? Do you know?
No.
No.
I wish I knew.
Yeah, because a lot of time I used to get I worked with a lot of Mexicans over my life, right?
Aztec.
And we would, yeah,
Hashtag
Aztec
Yucatan.
warrior.
Just pick one.
Just pick one so you can
Yeah.
stand straight like
Yeah.
that. But one day we were talking. We have a pretty good camaraderie with one of the local Mexican restaurants in our area, to the point to where when we walk in, they'll say "Stongo Naditska," and we'll say "Hey," and then they'll say "Mado." Oh, it's Yaza. That means "Do you want water?" And like they'll talk to us in our language, and they've lived there forever. Anyway, that being said, I remember I asked them one time I said, well, what language do you speak? And they're like, Spanish. And I said, no, what other language? Because I speak English, right? You speak Spanish. Same reason. What tribe are you? And they were like, I'm not a tribe. And I was like, no, you're a tribe. You're brown.
Mhm.
You just happen to be in Mexico. They were like, I'm Mexican. I was like, well, that's like saying I'm American. I'm American. You're Mexican. You're from Mexico. I'm from America. What tribe are you? And they're like, I don't know. Anyway, so a couple weeks pass, payday. Every 2 weeks we go eat.
Right.
On payday.
Yeah.
You don't see him until payday. So anyway, we went back in a couple more weeks and I asked him, I was like, did you find out? He was like, yeah. I asked my mom and my mom told me my grandma was this and my grandpa was this. And they used to speak a whole nother language. Like he was so enlightened because all he ever thought was I'm Mexican. And I said, and he just spoke Spanish. And I was like, you speak Spanish for the same reason I speak English. We got into a whole debate over that. It's fine. I can speak decent English. My Spanish is horrible, but I can get by if I need to order tacos. Hey, I know which ones I want. And how many?
Talk about taking 4 years of Spanish, 2 years in high school, 2 years in college for my degree and still not speak Spanish. Maybe because I didn't use it with anybody. I just know like commands, like some things. But if you were to speak with me, I'd be like, huh? I just don't say hello and how are you, and that's it.
Well, we have so many dialects in our language. It really kind of, let me say this. I have a level of fluency. I have a level of fluency in our language. I took, when I went to college again in 2016, when I went back to college, I took a language class that one of my coworkers was teaching. I got to be. You remind me you remember the Cheech and Chong, the Mexican American song where he says, Mexican Americans take Spanish and get a B, or in high school and get a B. But I just remember laughing at myself because I was like, there's so many dialects. And I'm sure it's the same in every tribe. There's different dialects per family. Like in our area, our language is so descriptive that in my household, even my grandma and grandpa said things different.
Oh yeah, because I speak fully Navajo,
Mm.
and I can speak with my dad. I can talk with everybody. But since I don't really speak it all the time, there's words that I have to kind of think about it, kind of go to like Navajo English kind of a thing. And to explain things, it's kind of hard. Like I was like, "Shit, what was that word again?" I have to think about it, and I kind of have to explain. This when my grandma was alive, that's what I had to do because she didn't really speak English. I had to think of the word, trying to say it right, because I always spoke English. The only time I spoke Navajo was I had to explain things like to my dad. That's the way he'll understand. And even back home, when I talk with my aunts, I talk Navajo, but with my cousin, we talk English. Even my kids, they know when I'm pissed off. That's when I speak Navajo.
So when you
When
get
they
carried
have
away.
to do their chores, that's when okay, what I need to do,
Yeah. Like if I say "Timaklugava," hey, that means like I'm about to carve you a new one. Anyway, but like my kids know how to get in trouble, real good. But I was thinking about that as I was walking through because this would have been if this was a gathering of my people, of my people, my tribe. I would have a list ready to be like, hey, how do you say this? How do you cook this? How do you do that?
Mhm.
Because we know that we come from all different areas. And when they're all gathered in masses, that this wealth of knowledge, this is an opportunity for me to be educated and to turn around and share that. Just like in recovery, once that you get recovery, you're supposed to give it away.
Mhm.
You're supposed to share it with other people. Once you get into that, you get it and you encourage it, then you go and give it away. So once you get that knowledge, you're not supposed to gatekeep it
Mhm.
because who are you going to give it to? You're not giving it to anybody. That's just selfish, and that's a whole nother teaching. So, but like right now, this would be an ideal opportunity for young people like tribal youth to come in and set up a booth, and maybe even have an elder and youth gathering, corner, or maybe even a clan gathering. I don't know. I'm just in my head because I've worked for the tribe for so long and because I'm trying to bridge these gaps from all of the different tribes and learn the communities, because the only way that we can help a community is to know what the community needs, right?
Mhm.
And to fulfill that need and meet that need. And if we can't, then that's where we need to ask for grant money. And that's why I'm here a lot of times. It's like, where can I palpate what is needed the most? Where is the most necessity? And you guys are so rich in abundance in elders, right now. And even though it doesn't seem like, a whole lot of people are here, whenever I go to our Older American program and see our elder nutrition, and the people come and it's wonderful, there might be 40 people there. And, and it's sad because I don't know. You also have to define what an elder is too in your community, because I think we talked about this the other day. In our community, We have some self-proclamated elders that want to come push people around because they're, they've been around.
Oh yeah, they have their ways.
Yeah, and you're stuck in your ways. But in my community, and whenever I was on council, that was a lot of times I would get pushed back because I was young, um, and I still am to them. But they treated me like I was 12 and didn't know anything, and I would be the one teaching their family members, the language and cultural classes and how to make turtle shells and how to bead and all of these things I was teaching them. And I could get ugly and petty, but I didn't. I would just kind of smile and wave and say okay. But I would have people try to put me down and saying, you're too young, you don't need to be teaching this, like even language. They would not even embrace me to teach the language. Well, who are you? First of all, you're female. That's always a big thing.
Oh yeah, that's how it is.
You're a little girl, and who are you to teach me, and how disrespectful is it, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help give something for free that was given to me for free. And if somebody can benefit it from it, even though maybe I'm only a 50% fluency speaker, then at least they'll be at 50% whenever they walk out the door when I try to help them. And I would get so much pushback. And it's, I said this the other day, it's so hard to work for your own tribe, right? It's so hard because I feel like that we would get like judged even harder than non-tribal members. And so I did push away for a little while, but I came back and came kind of in an underground fashion and started teaching language anyway. Just didn't get paid for it. So I could talk smack all I wanted to whoever, but judging who, knowing who your elders are and what is elders. We're at an elder conference, and how would you define your elder? Is it somebody that's a wisdom keeper, traditional knowledge? Is it somebody that embraces their culture and custom? Is it somebody that takes care of family, that brings family in and embraces all? Is it what defines your community's elders? Or is it because they're 65 and older, then they're automatically an elder, right? That's the government.
Yeah.
The government will say that automatically constitutes an elder, but what constitutes an elder in your community? And that's what I like to know in a community. So whenever I step in a community, before we offer any type of ceremony or like even a talking circle, because we don't want to step or go against the grain of that community's way or wisdom. So instead of introducing something that might be opposed to what they do, even all the way down to the direction that the circle goes, because in my community, we go the opposite direction. And then, this community does. Like when you go around the drum, we go around the fire the opposite way. And so in our community, our circles move in a different direction. You honor the fire, you honor the drum, and things like that. And so, but if you don't know those things in your community and you ask, just your random person that works at the tribe, they might not know either. Well, where's your elders? That's where we'll go. Like, we'll ask the elders in the community because we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to go against teachings. We don't want to teach other people. We do want to teach them at least one way. And if they don't know, then let's incorporate and have that conversation and talk about how we want to roll from here on. And so that's really where I am whenever in my cultural sharing and coming in and wanting to know the people in the community that I help. That's why I like to engage with the elders and say, what do you think? How would you do this? You might get 12 different answers, but that also means that there's a need that needs to be met there. We need to find, and not that I want to standardize it, right? Because that goes against anything that I even believe in, but knowing it is like G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. I watched a lot of cartoons growing up too. So
I understand on that part of, for me to know CNA ways, because I'm married to CNA, I asked a lot of questions with his grandma of like how to be in the circle, for my kids to dance, to what was the appropriate way to be in the circle. So I kind of learned a lot from her and how, a Arapaho side, because she was Arapaho, and learning that side, even her Pueblo side, I learned more about that. We even went out to.
We have some Seminole pep words. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we went to Santa Clara. So my kids are Navajo, Santa Clara, Cheyenne, Arapaho. So, she really did both of her Arapaho side and her Santa Clara. And I always took my kids kind of to know where they come from, to see. And that's how I know a lot. Not a lot, but to know what to do when I go to dances what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and how to, if you're going to sing at the drum, you go shake everybody's hand at the drum, and then everybody that's behind, even the same way when you leave. And when I used to have dances for my kids, it's like when they graduated and stuff, I had to go through her and say, okay, this is my head staff. She'll say, yes, yes, no, no, I don't want, that's just the way it is, and who she liked to sing with. And I was learning how to sing the songs. And when I left from here, when I moved back, I kind of forgot. So some of the songs I kind of have to sit there and kind of listen again. But my teacher's not here because she passed away. But like I like the way Jenna and Virginia and Lynn, I like the way they sing because they sing like their mom, their grandma and their mom. So it's those only ones I can listen to when they sing, because sometimes Virginia really sounds like the grandma. And that's how I started to learn this culture of the CNAs.
And that goes into elder custom and knowledge and tradition too, right? And protocol.
Yeah.
Protocol's a big thing, especially when you have 39 tribes in the state of Oklahoma. I say 39, I know the books say 38, but at Southern Plains Tribal Health Board, we like to honor the wishes of the Cheyenne and Arapaho to stand alone, right, as individuals. And so I like to say 39 tribes in Oklahoma because of the Cheyenne and Arapaho. And so that being said, is when I go into these communities, you never know. Like we're a handshaking community, so we will shake the hands of everyone. However, there is protocol to that. If there's a woman sitting next to a man, you shake the woman's hand first, because you don't want it to look like you're approaching that man, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And but but then you have the certain okay, like for us, protocol would be if there is a group of men sitting in a circle, I don't even approach that circle because that's man business. Same thing with woman business, right? And then you never know who is sitting away because they're not going to want to touch or shake hands because they may be in a special time right now. It's the easiest way I can say that. So but protocol, so I never know. And then even 39 tribes, right? You don't know whether to meet eyes with your elders, to sit lower than your elders, to sit next to, in front of, talk directly to ears, talk directly. Some communities, I have to look down when I'm talking to elders to be reverent, right? Because I have to automatically assume that this person has lived a life and an experience that I have not lived, and I am reverent to that. And so not so much I'm bowing down and curtsying, but it's kind of the same thing, right? And so whenever I see an elder, I'll shake hands and put my head down. And there's certain parts of songs even that whenever you hear honor beats, and things that you're reverent, and I will put my head down during that part. And so protocol is absolutely a thing that when we go into these communities, that this is where this is another big giant monumental occasion that you could find out that protocol. And if not, use this as an opportunity to teach, and maybe we're not doing something right. This is also an opportunity for you to be teachable and have them, correct you. In our way, we're not supposed to be offended when we're corrected, especially like if we're speaking the language. And if I say something wrong, for so long, we always would have, people that were raised in boarding schools, and, the whole boarding school part of it, the intergenerational trauma of that just in and of itself is immense. But coming back from boarding school, we have people who are going through a lot of guilt, shame, and trauma because they lost a lot of those teachings while they were being beaten, quite frankly, in these boarding schools. And so when they came back, a lot of that shame stemmed from, I don't remember, or I don't know, or they don't feel valid enough to stand as an elder anymore because they've lost a little bit of something of themselves. And so, you have to create those opportunities to get that stuff back. But when you go to your elders and everything, you automatically give them that. Sometimes they don't want it. They'll be like, no, you don't have to do that, and I'm like, no, I'm going to stand on this because this is how I was taught. And I have a cousin who, she's part Kiowa, part Seminole, and I don't know what else she is, but all she recognizes is those two parts. Ada. I don't know what else she is, but anyway. But whenever I come up this direction, she'll say, Nat, just make sure you do this, make sure you do that. And I'll go, okay, yeah, and it's this and it's that. And she'll tell me all of these ways, and she stands on them, and she'll say, don't, she's one of those people that if you like her earrings, and you say, "Oh, I really like your earrings," she's going to yank them out and give them
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
that's what I learned with the Cheyenne way. Um, One of my friends, she's from Hammond, and I was saying, I like your earrings. Those are cool. I just like them,
Hmm.
and she took them off. She goes, here. I was like, I don't want them. And she goes, no,
You have to take them.
yeah. I was like, okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to take them from you.
I know, and I felt bad
Yeah.
because she's done it before to me, and I was like, "Oh," and she was like, "No." And anyway, so one time somebody came up to me and was like, "Oh, I really like your earrings," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not that tribe. Hey, you can like them from over
Yeah.
there, hey."
So
But just, I
tied to
mean,
your car. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Oh, I really like your car. Hey. I really like that wallet. But yeah, just following along the lines of elders and all of the things that go along with the knowledge of your elders. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. And you can tell because I can't shut up whenever I get overwhelmed. So, but yeah.
I think when we come back and we're talking about the ideas of how people are perceived when they talk and things like that. I think we kind of went through that battle whenever we first started. You know, everybody goes through that battle in the recovery community because if you're if you remember or if you know somebody like we'll just use Barry for instance, like if you knew Barry from back in the day, like there is no way you're ever going to think that you're going to want to go up and listen to Barry and he knows anything about anything and he has no clue what he's talking about. And but the ones that sit and listen and hear his story, and that goes for anybody that is promoting recovery in the way that they're supposed to be, that they're taught, like, hey, once you learn this you need to go and share it. Once they do that and they actually share their story, they start to understand that influence that we're talking about, and that it's whether it's an elder or whether it's somebody that's just going through that has tons of experience or whatever it is that just life in general. It's hard for sometimes because I know that he probably goes to that battle with some of his old friends still, or I know I go through that battle with some, even my own family.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, man, I was like, there's, it's just, it's just, just times where it's like, man, I was like that perception, it's hard for people to break free of whatever that is.
Yeah.
And if you know people that were apart about a certain time, and but you have no idea who they are now. It's like you have to be able to sit and listen to their story in order to finally understand, like, okay, he is in a place where he can actually share this. And it's not him talking down to anybody or anybody else talking down to anybody. It's just, this is what I went through. This is what I learned. Here's how I think it can help you.
I think part of that spirituality and the teachings of it that go along with the last couple of days of the elder meditation is kind of reflecting and looking back on everybody has a story. And everybody comes from, we're so quick to judge, and we're quicker to judge ourselves than we are anyone else. But when you're in that mind frame to where you're thinking about it, if you are intent, if your spirit and intent of every day is to be better than you were the day before, then you don't automatically assume when someone comes from a lifestyle that we used to, because we all had a story. Like I did some horrible things to some wonderful people growing up, and that accountability is what keeps me in recovery today. And so, that accountability also keeps me humble to the point to where, yeah, I'm going to pop off on one of these days because I am still human and that is still me. And that's not justifying it. It just means that is me living in reality. But am I going to feel bad whenever I go to pray and how I was trying to be and reflect in the evening and reflect over my day of, was I better than I was yesterday? Probably not. But that's okay for me to, because at least I'm self-aware enough to know that I put myself in a scenario that I tried to stay out of. But that being stated, is I try not to automatically assume anymore, because people used to automatically assume what my story was growing up, and I didn't like it, but I had to fly under the radar for years and years and years in my battle with mental illness, and all of the trauma and the grief and everything that came with that, suicide attempts and all of these different types of, can I say that word? It's too late. Anyway, but all of these different things that I went through, my own family didn't know until I started publicly um, discussing it, and sharing my timeline. And whenever I started working with White Bison, and I'm a trained facilitator for Mending Broken Hearts. And so one of the things, whenever I get a chance, an opportunity now, which before it was scary because it was like your heart being wide open on display for everybody, however they wanted to take it. And you were just sharing it for no reason, but it was for a reason. So for me to get down into the ugly parts of my life, the things that I never even shared with anybody else but a book, growing up. And then when I started opening and cutting into my soul and sharing that, and being okay with it, that's when I started healing myself. And so I realized that once I started sharing my part of the story, my trauma, all of the history behind, running drugs, and all of these different underhand things, all the while being, this Miss Goody Two Shoes type in school, because that was this world, this was that world, and here's the ceremonial world. I was living three lives. And so once that all happened, my own family would go, man, I never knew. I always knew you were tough, or I always knew you would do this, but I never knew. And it was literally through Wellbriety, which the last 7 years, Wellbriety and, White Bison and all of the trainings with the Medicine Wheel 12 step, and then learning AA, and incorporating it into my daily life in my recovery with all of the other things. It wasn't until I met this program, and the discussion of healing out loud, and recovering out loud and healing out loud, and all of the different out loud for everybody to say, because we would tell our story, we'd share our story among our peers, right? But to blast it from those that maybe aren't in recovery, it's crazy, because people will come up to me and go, holy crap, because not everybody in recovery is recovering from drugs or alcohol, right? We're all in recovery from something, whether it be anger, whether it be fear, whether it be, all of these different things that you can recover from, guilt and trauma, or guilt, resentment, trauma, all of these different, the trauma timeline that I have, and in my step 4, inventories that we did in the 12 steps and everything. If we could have everybody in the world do those, I think we would have such a much better place, right? Because that is accountability, that is self-awareness, and it is one of the hardest things for you to have to do, is to go through an inventory what your life really looks like and be honest with yourself. And so when we have those people come to us in the community that did not know, or they knew me from this world, but not this world, or knew me from this world and not this world.
Mhm.
But then those ones that kind of side eye you and be like, okay, I see you over here acting, all high and mighty now,
Oh, yeah.
got a real job. Hey, got a real job. And, or, the ones that only know me from the ceremonial world don't know what I do outside of the ceremonial world, right? And they didn't know. And I mean, it's just once those worlds collide, because nowadays, we got people coming back and helping their people. And, in the recovery community, especially, when I see people, because I'm from those people, I'll look at them and I go, I see you. Okay. Okay. Like I'm the biggest cheerleader. Like I don't care what you're doing. If you are taking out trash because you're a maintenance person, that's better than you laying on the street or being in the ditches when I last saw you. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, to me, it's all success, and success to me is a measurement. I mean, it's subjective. How do we measure success? What standards are we following? What protocol? My personal success is my children are proud of me. They don't have to worry about me, flying off the handle and practically beating them because they did one little tiny thing wrong, because I have all of this guilt and trauma and resentment and stress built up, that they become the person that absorbs all of that, right? Because now I'm self-aware because I've done all of this work. And so um my measure of success is still waking up and being able to fix my bed. If that's the one thing that I can accomplish that day, then and then I know that I'm self-aware enough to know that that's my best that I bring to the table. And then I might clean the house the next day. Might.
One room at a time.
One room at a time. Sometimes one corner at
Yeah.
a time. I'm not even lying. So
Yeah.
one
like
day
when-
at a time.
Yeah.
sometimes it's 1 hour at a time. And in recovery, we learn it's 1 minute at a time. Sometimes when you're trying to battle that demon or whatever demon it is that we're battling, sometimes it's every minute counts. A day is a long time when you're working through those steps in recovery. And I understand, I get it, I completely get it, because there are days I'm like, let me just make it through the rest of this day. Oh my gosh, let me make it through the rest of this 10 minutes before I fly off the handle. And then those are the days that I have to be self-aware, walk away, go ground myself. I literally would take my shoes off and go walk in the grass or whatever, because I need to get away, because I get overwhelmed. And, I have late adult diagnosed ADHD because it didn't exist when I was growing up. And now it does. And so now I have it. I hyperfixate on all the things, my anger, my, all these different things. And I have to rewrite that narrative sometimes in the middle of the day. Sometimes I have to turn my mindset around, because I'll be angry and lash out all day and be like, you know what? I'm not doing anything to help this day for myself. All I'm doing is creating resentment. How can I change that? But it takes self-awareness to do that. You have to call yourself out and be accountable to do that. And then some days I let it take me over, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, let me rework my amends. I got to make amends next day.
I sleep all day.
Yeah. And I can usually tell whenever I'm overwhelmed, is I'll sleep.
Yeah, I don't want to do nothing. Like, I don't know. I just sleep, and it's like, leave me alone. Or sometimes I go into my K-drama where I'm in that fantasy world, just pay attention and talking to them. They're like, oh, what would you say? Oh, never mind.
I'm a white bison nerd now, so I mind map a lot. I have a mind map book, and so I'll what made me feel bad today? Literally, I'll be like, Barry.
That's the first part.
the big right there. What happened today, and how did this make me feel? And no, but quite frankly, there's everybody does their thing, and and more power to you. Whatever you found, and follow with it. But when you recover out loud, and when you share your story, and you're able to share your story, you could be helping somebody else, and you don't even realize who you're helping. We'll be driving down the road, and Barry will get a phone call, and it'll be somebody and not even asking for help, because for me, that's my trauma. Anytime I hear my phone ring, I know somebody's asking me for help. Hey, either somebody's in jail, going to jail, needs out of jail, or or somebody passed away, or it's always bad. And so that's why my ringer's never on, because it's a trigger for me, and it's a whole thing that goes all the way back to my childhood. But when his phone rings, he answers it, and he'll be like, and it will almost always be somebody be like, hey brother, I just want to let you know, blah, blah, and give success stories. And, and he's there to praise them every time. It doesn't matter what time it is. Or he'll be like, man, that's wonderful. Or I just wanted to let you know that this has helped me. Or I caught y'all's live this morning. And, and it was the one laugh that I got today that I needed. And, and you guys don't realize how far your arms reach. We have people that are logging in from Hawaii, and somebody, was saying hey from Hawaii. And I'm like, man, your arms reach really far and wide. And, you're doing such a good job here. And, and I shout out the tour program all the time. I really do. But, if it wasn't for this, you would think that y'all had this giant army of people, right?
A lot of people
You
are
would
always
think,
like,
well,
many
how
people do you
big
guys
is your
have?
program? And I'm
4?
like, there's 3.5
Yeah.
when Mingo shows up. Hey, when he's not yogaing.
Yeah, it's technically just 3. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you would think your program was giant. And when I first found out that there was just a couple of y'all, I was like, what? How are they everywhere? Well, we got a lot of people, that help out, and wonderful, because people want to help you out and support you. And that is a measure of success for me. It's somebody that's willing to drop everything and go, you know what? I'll be there. And you don't have to give me gas money. You don't even have to feed me, but I'll be there to help you. Even if it's just to put chairs out, or, hey, I'll bring coffee, that to me is a measure of success of you actually really.
Our guys showed
I
up.
know,
Yeah, that would be cool, huh?
Yeah, we just
Great.
need Barry and Mingo. to
Barry
do
and
that.
Mingo would show up to make the coffee.
Well,
and to
I
put
will
the
make
chairs
sure at least one of them shows.
At noon tomorrow.
out. Yes,
At
because
noon.
me and Darian are already planning on being here at 11 tomorrow. So it'd be nice if they showed up
Yeah,
sometime.
Mingo was like, it's so nice that the
Well,
ERC staff puts all this stuff out for us. We're like, that's us, Mingo.
Yeah.
We're like,
We did it before you got here.
He's like, I never knew that. I thought they were just doing
That reminds me. I mean, and this can be an off-camera ask,
gotta
but
be on.
the tomorrow for like the meal and heating up everything, and is the kitchen going to be
Open.
open to cook?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wondered. I just didn't know if that was cook it at home and then bring it, or cook
No.
it there.
I'm gonna be whipping up this pudding. It's gonna be
What kind of
amazing? Banana cream with vanilla wafers and Cool Whip, and then
Have you ever
chocolate.
tried it with Kellogg's cereal?
Which one?
Like the cornflake.
Like
The
cornflakes?
cornflakes put at the bottom, put your bananas on top, then the banana pudding or vanilla pudding together.
Are you bringing that tomorrow?
You ever use the?
I gotta work.
You know, with the chest cookie.
There's a kitchen there.
Just start it sounds like you don't want to recover out loud.
It sounds like you're being quiet. Hey, you're recovering quiet, and that's against the rules. Ain't it?
But yeah, that's I taste it when you go to a feast in New Mexico, any feast of the Pueblos, the desserts, what they come up with. Oh my gosh, the food, you got to try it. I mean,
I make a pretty decent banana split cake. Have y'all ever eaten a banana split cake?
no.
It's literally everything that you would put in a regular banana split, like the pineapple and
Have you ate Barry's famous cake?
Oh,
no,
his
but we've
poke
heard
cake.
about it.
Yeah,
The
he's
poke cake.
promised it like
Tell
4
him
times.
Well,
to
for the
make
day.
he was talking about it the other day for I guess they had the anniversary for the AA local AA chapter, and he was supposed to try. We had 8,000 things going on that day, so
that weekend was busy.
it was crazy. But he wanted to make it for them, and I was like, well, what it's like an icebox cake. He was like, it's like a poke cake, but it's Jello, all these things, and I was like, well, why haven't I eaten that? I made you great dumplings from scratch, dude.
The whole meal. The whole meal.
Nothing else
Yeah.
until I eat your cake.
Yeah, you're not getting any more grape dumplings or any of this other food that I can cook until I get this cake.
It's good. Yeah. I bet he was supposed to bring it. What, the first dance that we had
Talks
in
about it
April?
all the
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Yeah. Every dance, and he's like, "Oh, I forgot it."
Yeah, we need to
Like
totally
every
do that.
single time.
Yeah. Just make sure that he knows on the way back that he has to stop for this.
I'll forget. I need to text him right now. I am. Y'all text him right now and say, hey,
Yeah, I'll put it in.
we
the
said
group
it on
chat.
the- yeah,
I'm
put it in the
sorry,
group
I'm
chat.
producing.
No,
so-
I got it.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
put.
it's
Natalie
fine.
said you need to make the cake. and
Yeah,
then we'll do it.
Natalie said she wants the cake.
Well, one thing is you can do is shout out, hey,
Not your cake.
why?
Are you shouting out? Shout
No, I
out.
mean-
Oh yeah, go ahead. Shout out whoever
No,
you
I
want to
mean,
talk
like
to.
saying shout out to people that could put out the chairs tomorrow for us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If
Oh yeah,
ever
anybody
wanna
that wants to volunteer. Anybody that wants to volunteer. Why are
Yeah.
you saying no? I see you shaking your head over there.
Oh,
I didn't even get to press send yet.
watch it.
Oh, there was a request. The request lines are.
It wasn't
open.
even a
It wasn't
request.
even
It was
our
a demand
request.
by her.
He said, "I can't hear you." I know
It's
you
fine.
see
I
me.
just texted though.
You
Now
can read.
read it.
Quit it.
My eye's not working.
Yeah. I waited at IHS for 2 hours for no reason.
So
Optometry was here
anyways,
too.
you guys,
They were all here.
if you're not busy tomorrow, come out to our dance. We'll be out here in Clinton at the ERC starting at 2. If you'd like to volunteer to come help set up, you can be there at noon. Barry will be there live in person at
Yeah,
noon.
at noon.
Come take pictures with him. He might be making a cake.
Dang.
Yeah.
No,
Actually, you
why
know
not
what?
do it?
He is making his
Yeah,
cake.
that's what it was a demand. We could actually
Don't-
record. you
Don't
making
do
the
that while
cake.
we're on
Yeah,
camera.
yeah. Adjusting his belt right in front of us.
Wait, is it sugar free? Hey, I'm just playing. I'm gonna eat it anyway. I'll just take
Get
extra
that
medicine.
face. He's like, yeah. So come out, come dance with us, come eat some food. I think we have 5 briskets coming. We have tons of other food that's coming.
But if you guys
Barry's
wanna bring-
cake's gonna be there.
Who's doing the brisket?
My mom's
I
smoking.
wondered.
Too. I think Jay is smoking one, and then Lynn's making 2.
Nice. I can't hear you.
Brisket off.
A brisket off.
It's our
brisket
smoked meats,
cooked.
not meth thing.
Smoked brisket, not that.
Smoked meat, not meth.
Yep. We've been talking
That's
about it for years. One of these days, we'll actually
One of
do
these
something.
days it's happening, huh? Man.
OU's kicking off at 11 now tomorrow.
Hmm.
Not that you are worried about it.
He'll be setting
anymore.
up chairs.
Hopefully he's there setting up chairs. Me and Darian can't be there till 4 tomorrow, so you got to run the show.
Do whatever y'all want.
Yeah, just get the protocol out of the way, and then we'll just start with specials.
Start with
Say.
specials.
Yeah.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, little break.
Well, it
I don't
sounds
know
like
what they're doing.
everybody's done.
I know.
Is
I
everybody
know.
Yeah,
gone?
they're like
Everybody's
putting up
leaving.
tables and everything.
What? You should have told us. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we missed the whole
I
elders.
guess we're done.
Oh, we missed the whole elders conference.
We talked about them though for like an hour.
Had a bunch of elders that wanted to come.
Oh, they were just all in line. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well,
They
you
were
can
in
join the
line.
Natalie
You could have brought him
podcast
in.
next time.
Yeah.
Next time, bring them in.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to come over here,
The-
but Darian made me.
The All Nations Natalie podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. All Natalie recovery.
This is all Natalie
Stop
recovery.
it. They're getting me run out of this country.
That's my recovery.
Oh, that's my sponsor.
Yeah.
Getting all mad. I don't share.
You can say, don't go there.
I
Yeah.
know. Getting in
Defender already again.
trouble. Oh. Be quiet, be quiet,
Stand
Mr.
up for you.
Harjo.
Not funny.
Yeah, it's not funny.
It's not funny. So the circle of giving.
Yeah.
Start
No.
tantrum over
One's-
there.
It's one joke and then it lasts
Okay,
forever.
I'm playing the outro.